Geordies, welcome back to another match preview. Hope everyone's well, and this time it's Manchester United, the Red Devils. And usually when we come up against Manchester United in the past, I used to dread these games because I used to think this was a defeat. But now I'm quietly confident coming up against Manchester United. I watched them against Lyon last night. First half, they were absolutely abysmal. Second half, they were a little bit better, but nothing that we're used to Manchester United being. This is not the Manchester United of old, so I'm quietly confident going into this game. But there is something I want to talk about before we get into the preview, and that is the rumours surrounding Sandro Tonali. Not only I don't deny clubs are interested in him, but the price that we're talking about is blowing my mind. So it looks like there have been reports that Juventus are interested in bringing Sandro Tonali to their stadium, to their club. And I've got no doubt, like I say, clubs are interested in Sandro Tonali because he's one of the best midfielders in the world. If I offered every club out there the opportunity to sign Sandro Tonali, they would probably sign him. So I've got no doubt there is interest, because who wouldn't be interested in a player like this? But we're talking about figures of 60 and 70 million. That's crazy, because we signed him for about 60 million euros. Even despite having a 10-month ban, he's been an absolute revelation since he's come back into football, and he's almost doubled in value, if not doubled and some, because I think for us to even get out of bed and entertain any negotiations, the negotiations have to start somewhere of 120 million. Nottingham Forest have just slapped a £100 million price tag on Morgan Gibbs-White. Sandro Tonali is up there with that. There's absolutely no chance he leaves for 60, 70 million. We're in a good position financially now. We've done the hard yards. We haven't signed anybody of significant in the past 3 windows to put us in a good opportunity. We're in a position where we don't have to sell, where we're in a position where we can strengthen our squad without selling. So I've got no doubt, unless it's money we're talking about north of 100 million, then we wouldn't even entertain these conversations. And as you can see on Twitter, on X, loads of Juventus fans are jumping on this, as you can see as I'm posting here. But in my opinion, he looks happy. The squad's happy. He's won a trophy. He looks at home, to be honest. And let's believe what his agent says, because Fabrizio Romano has now tweeted out that Sandro Tonali's agent Rizzo said back to Serie A in June, he's one of the best midfielders in the world, which I agree with. He has a price Italian clubs will hardly be able to pay. I imagine his career far away from the Serie A. So his career is definitely in English football, in my opinion, and his career is definitely with Newcastle United, in my opinion. But some of the accounts are just nonsense, because somebody's identified Eze is a replacement for Sandro Tonali. How can he be a replacement? They're two completely different players. So what I'm saying is, sometimes news or rumours generate hype, but for 60, 70 million, we're not even answering the phone for Sandro Tonali, or Isak, or Anthony Gordon, or Bruno, or Joe Linton, or any other player that you want to try and rumour away from Newcastle United, because they're all staying, hopefully, and we're going to have another successful season when we qualify for Champions League. And the next step we need to take is by beating Man United on Sunday. So let's look into what we're going to expect from Ruben Amorim, because I've seen a little bit different at Man United since he's come in. When he first come in, they were all over the shop. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't positionally aware. There's been a slight improvement in their positional sense, but the results haven't come. So Ruben Amorim's style of play evolves around a 3-4-3 system, which we already know. He typically likes to attack in a 3-2-5 shape and then defends in a 5-2-3 shape. So just the reverse of a 3-4-3. Amorim's teams are known for their proactive approach, dominating possession and looking to create opportunities through controlled builds from the back. For most part, the wing-backs hold width, with the 2 inside forwards moving inside, attacking the inside channels. So this is something that we're going to have to be cautious of. But I think with our base 3 midfields, this is something we could handle. Wing-backs are key in an Amorim system. Utilise wing-backs as crucial attacking players, giving them the freedom to push high and integrate into central positions and make wide runs. So they're their danger men. Their wing-backs have a huge importance in everything going forward for Amorim. When pressing high up the pitch, the front 3 are narrow to prioritise protecting the central areas attackers aim to force the play out wide, and that's where their wing backs start the press. So what they want to do is force you out wide with the ball. They do this to set wide traps, so they'll hunt you down in normally in packs of 3 to try and win the ball. And the reason they do this, because if they do win the ball, they're in the best shape to transition into an offensive attacking style and create opportunities. So that's enough about Man United. Let's look at Newcastle United, because I often say the best formation to play against a 3-4-3 system is a 4-3-3, which is what Newcastle United play. So we don't need to adapt our shape or change our game to deal with the threat of Man United. What we need to do is create midfield overloads, and this is exactly what we're seeing at Old Trafford. And we are going to look at screenshots on how we broke them down at Old Trafford, because don't forget, we've already beaten a Ruben Amorim system this season when we went to Old Trafford, won 2-0, and we did that by creating effective midfield overloads, because your midfield 3 can really bully their midfield 2 and prevent them from controlling the game. Additionally, it always allows you to have that man advantage, and that's exactly where our opening goal came from at Old Trafford. Consider staggering your midfield, which is exactly what we did. We had Sandro Tonali in the cushion, then we had Joelinton just left of him, Bruno just right of him, and then their 2 midfielders were doing doggies, all 90s. Utilise the gaps between the back 3, which is exactly what Alexander Isak done, and switch the play early, which is exactly what Bruno done for our opening goal. We will be looking at these goals, but in terms of exploiting space, utilise the width of the field. As a back 3 formation, they can be vulnerable in wide areas because you create 2v1 situations through overlapping runs or underlapping runs, and their fullbacks are left isolated against 2-on-1 all the time. And what this also does, it means one of their centre-backs will have to drift out wide, causing more space or creating more space for Alexander Isak centrally. And this is where he can create a 1v1 situation in the box if he receives the ball, or a 1v1 situations if a cross comes in. So it gives Alexander the freedom without him getting involved in the game. So this is why I like a 4-3-3 system against a 3-4-3, but it's got to be utilised correctly. If you're not on the game mentally and don't work hard off the ball, then you will get beat. So we've still got to do the right things, but we set up perfectly against an Amorim system. I actually think if you win your individual battles in this game, you'll come out on top. I don't think Man United are that great. I don't think they've got an attacking threat. And I think someone like Højlund, right? My biggest gripe with someone like Rasmus Højlund is he's not a player for an Amorim system. He hasn't got that tactical awareness. He hasn't got that positional awareness to really link up play, get involved in the game, know where he has to be at certain moments. If you watch him, he's completely he just floats around the place and doesn't acknowledge where he needs to be in certain situations. So I really do think that he doesn't really cause us a threat. Højlund will work better in a system like Bournemouth, where it's controlled chaos, where they attack really aggressively and really forward-thinking and expressive in attacking situations. He would work better in a system like that. In fact, he would probably work better for Newcastle United than he would for Man United, because with Amorim, it's all about positional play. You've got to be at certain moments, at certain times of the game. Rasmus Højlund doesn't acknowledge it. He doesn't understand. He can't understand the rhythm of the game. And when you watch him, when crosses come in, he never gets on the blindside defender. He never attacks a front post. He's never getting in front of his man. And this is everything Alexander Isak does that he doesn't. This is why I think we can win this game. The point I'm trying to make is we've got better players all over, like for like, all over the pitch. If you compare Rasmus Højlund, Alexander Isak, there's no comparison. If you compare their midfield to our midfield absolutely trounces them. So if we win our individual battles, work hard and do the right things and do all the basics well, we'll win this game. And this is the opening minutes at Old Trafford, and as you can see, we've clearly created the midfield overload. You've got Joelinton who's free, you've got Tonali who's free. The ball gets popped off in Isak, he then plays it back to Bruno, and this is where our opening goal come from. Remember I said we've got to switch the play early. Bruno receives the ball off Isak, he then switches the diag all the way to Lewis Hall, who receives the ball out wide, creating overloads out wide, being aggressive and brave in his positional play. This is where our goal comes from, because he's got a yard of space just to get one touch, deliver the ball in the box. Alexander Isak scores. It's quite important that we scored from 2 crosses at Old Trafford. That's because they're vulnerable in wide areas. We can attack that space in wide areas, and this is exactly what we should be looking to do. And again, after a little sequence of play in the midfield, you have Joe Linton receiving the ball and then playing it out wide at Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon stands up his man, comes back in on his right foot, looks to cross a ball, and then you've got Joe Linton who heads it into the back of the net, rises above their centre-back because he's more aggressive, he attacks the ball, and that's how we'll go 2-0 up. So this is how you beat Manchester United, creating overloads in the middle of the pitch, which is exactly what we've done there. We've got 3 players who could receive the ball. Jacob Murphy could play it in Isak, he can play it in Joe Linton, or he can play it at Sandro Tonali. Manchester United players are just doing doggies. We're just moving the ball around them. It was a sequence of beauty. And then you switch the play early, because what Manchester United do is like to trap you in wide areas. So they want to force you in wide areas and then really suffocate you, and that leaves space on the opposite side. So if we can switch the play early, that's where you get the better of them, because you're creating a one-on-one situation and then you're taking control of this attack. And that's when Lewis Hall receives a ball, Isak scores, and then we'll go 1-0 up, and then we just see the game out from there. Manchester United did have their moments, don't get us wrong. I think they hit the post late on in the end. Højlund missed a one-on-one, but so did Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak missed a one-on-one situation where he tried to dink the keeper. Keeper just caught it. So we do create opportunities against Manchester United. Now, the biggest question for Eddie Howe, well, Eddie Howe's ill himself. He's missed training all week through illness, so hope you're well, Eddie Howe. Speedy recovery. I don't know if he's going to be on the bench come this Sunday, because if he's not recovered, then he doesn't want to be in and around the players and give off his illness to them. So the biggest question for Eddie Howe is, Anthony Gordon come back in or keep Harvey Barnes? Because Anthony Gordon's trained well, he's got a slight bruise, but he looks like he's fit enough to play. But in my opinion, we've won 4 on the bounce. There's no need to change it. We've kept the same team consecutively for 4 games. So if it's not broke, don't try and fix it, in my opinion. And I don't think these players are the type of players to really get complacent. I think they want Champions League football. I think they know the importance of every single point in this race leading up to European football. So I kind of feel like it's going to be the same 11. I know that sounds boring, but I really, really do. I think Harvey Barnes has deserved and earned his right to start. Jacob Murphy's in fine form at the minute. If he's not scoring, he's assisting. And then everybody else is absolutely thriving. Tino's thriving. Trippier looks like he's rolling back the years. So I do think Nick Pope's going to start in goal. Kieran Trippier right back. Fabian Shaw, Dan Burn as centre-backs because Botman's still out. Tino Livramento at left-back, who's been tremendous at left-back. And the reason why he's been so good and looked safer at left-back than he does at right-back is because in our system, the left-back position gets more cover than the right back position, because Joe Linton's tasked with the role of allowing our left back to get forward and he covers for him. Bruno doesn't have that role on the other side, so the cover the left back gets to the right back is quite significant, and this gives a license for Lewis Hall when he was playing left back, or Tino, to really bomb forward without worrying too much about what's behind him, because he knows Joe Linton's going to cover for him. But on the other side, they don't have as much cover as what they do on the left side. So this is why Tino's thriving in the left back position. This is why Lewis Hall's been thriving all season in the left back position. And this is probably why on our right back position, those players that want to get forward more tend to get caught out a lot more than they do on the left hand side. But taking off and away from Tino, he's been absolutely brilliant. Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton in the midfield, the best midfield balance in the Premier League in my opinion. Jacob Murphy on the right, Harvey Barnes on the left, and then Alexander Isak centrally. That team on paper is good enough to beat this Manchester United team. This Man United team have got nothing to play for in the Premier League. All their eyes are set on winning the Europa League, because the importance for them to get into Champions League football is absolutely massive financially, and also for revenue, for player transfers come this summer. So all their eggs are in one basket, and that's Europa League. They're not going to come here and really overexhaust themselves. They'll probably change their starting 11 in my opinion, because they've got a tough game against Lyon next week on Thursday night. So I don't expect Man United to be the Man United of old, or even the Man United that comes here and really tries to impose themselves on this game. I can really see us dominating this game, and I'm going to go for a comfortable 2-0 win again. Let me know your thoughts in the below. Would you change any of the starting 11? Also, I want to hear your score predictions in the below, but let me know what you think of this video. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, away the lads.